On this episode, I'm excited to bring you a trio of Toronto brothers making songs that are breaking genres. They have a lot coming up through the pipeline, and as we're recording this, their latest single, Later in Life, is so real and filled of raw emotions. I've heard it. It's absolutely adore it. Here on the show today is Beyond the Sun. Welcome, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for the kind words.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. If you guys want to just introduce yourselves with your names, just so people listening, not the video version, know who's talking.
Yeah, of course. So you want to go first?
Oh,
Go first.
So I'm Colin. I'm 24 and I'm the singer.
Yeah, we're doing ages too.
We're doing
Okay.
ages.
I'm Phil. I'm the oldest. I'm 29. I play guitar.
I'm Dalton. I am 27 and I am the drummer.
And we're brothers.
Yeah.
We're brothers. We got that. That's awesome. The concept of being in a band with my brothers is actually sounds like my personal hell. So the fact that you guys are alone, doing it is kind of crazy to me. I mean, obviously we'll get into it. But what was the first thing you guys listened to today? Let's get started with that.
What do you think?
The Black Parade. I've been back into the Black Parade was the first album I went out and bought on my own.
Mm-hmm.
And then that was when I was 12, and now I just kind of this last month I got back into it, top to bottom.
Nice.
I just listened to the new Need to Breathe song with Karah Underwood. That's the only song I've actually listened to today, yeah.
Wow.
I've only been listening to Chicago sports radio. So the first song that I heard on there was Jay-Z and Kanye. I should know the name of it. It's a big one. It's Bring 'em Up, Bring 'em Up, Bring 'em Up.
Oh, yeah.
That one. That's the only song I've heard so far today.
That is an eclectic mix. I'm glad. That's it. I feel like that kind of shows too for what you guys do is how different that all is. Also, I think it's great that Chicago sports radio plays stuff like that because our sports radio here. So I live right outside of DC in Maryland. So all not early 90s 80s rock is what they play, and I'm just I'll listen to it, and then it's just all right, we've heard the song every morning.
Yeah, it's the same bumper every time.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So let's kind of get started with your beginnings and how the band kind of formed. How did you guys start? And was being brothers, did one person kind of start and then everybody followed, or was it kind of everybody was already playing music and it just made sense?
Yeah, it was a very kind of organic thing in the sense of becoming a band playing together, but we knew, we would literally be putting on, we didn't even know what performances were, but we had a playroom in our old house in the basement, and we would go down, we would dim the lights. I had this plastic little toy guitar. Dalton had these Lincoln log,
kind of like Lego, but the wood ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he use two of them as a drumstick and empty out his bins.
And I would
Colin
just
would just dance. And we would play the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC, and we would call our parents down and be you got to come watch us. And we didn't even know really what we were doing. We just that's what we like to do. That was fun for us, and that led to us begging our parents for instruments. And at that time, I started when I was 9 years old of actually playing, and I had probably been begging to play for about 2 years at that time. And my parents are okay, he's asked to do baseball, quit that. He's asked to do this, quit that. Let's rent him a guitar. And at the same time, I was 9, Dalton was 6. He was asking for drums. So my parents are all right, 2 for 1. Let's rent a drum set. Let's rent a guitar, and we'll just see after a month if they even still look at it.
Yeah, and then me being the youngest, it was just I was 4 at the time. So by the time I was 5 or 6, I'm all right, well, I got to do something. So what do you need?
Yeah.
And then because there's nothing. It was just, and then I became the bass player actually when we were really young.
Yeah.
And then we were in a band.
Just through the school we went to for music lessons, they kind of put a few
Kids
of us together.
Yeah.
We were in a band with another guy who was Phil's age, and then Colin came in, playing bass.
Because that was the only instrument not taken. We already had a singer.
Yeah, when I was 6, I became the bass player, and then I would say, and then that band split up basically when Phil and the other guy went to high school, and then.
But in the span of a year and a half,
mm-hmm.
we did 200 shows.
Holy cow!
Canada's youngest rock band.
Yeah.
What?
We were the first band. We were the youngest band to ever play Canadian Music Week. Colin was on the cover of the Toronto Star. which is like
The
our
New York Times.
New York Times,
Yeah.
New York Post. It's like the New York Post,
Yeah.
like the New York Post of Toronto. And then we were the first like youngest band to ever compete in like the rock station's talent search.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Back when Battle of the Bands were like
yeah,
huge.
back when Battle of the Bands was a thing, and but yeah, we did festivals and events and all kinds. We were like a little bit of a novelty act because it's like here's these young kids who could play
before Facebook, YouTube, before any social media was a thing.
Yeah. Yeah, we were like 3 years ahead of the Jonas Brothers, just without any of their success.
Yeah.
We thought we were successful, but then they came on the scene, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm in high school, and
They stole our bit.
yeah, and they're playing the Sky Dome down the road.
Came out like a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so we did that. And that gave us the bug. I mean, that was the first time performing live as the three of us. Colin, even that whole time during the band with the lead singer, was like, I want to be the singer.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like, you're just too young.
I was
like,
8 years old. So
our singer's already going through puberty, so we don't need you yet. And then 2005, came, and that band disbanded, and we were like, well, we're still going to keep playing
we still
music.
want to do this, so.
And then that was when Beyond the Sun was born. It was born in a time when I was 13, hence the name is not really that well thought out in comparison to thing. It's like 13 to 9.
Yeah.
5 years younger?
Oh, yeah.
9, 8 or 9.
8 or 9.
So the thought process wasn't that well thought out of like, we're like, this is cool. We can have a sun logo. Band's got the name.
Yeah.
Let's think of the edgiest thing we can do at 13, right?
Yeah, well, and that band, the first band was called Hidden Echo, and it was like unknown.
So we thought we had this like theme.
We needed to keep it.
Let's keep the theme. We don't know what's beyond the sun. It's like, oh Lord,
we love space.
Yeah, and we thought about changing it so many times,
Yeah.
and we almost, we were this close to changing it to Capital City, and then Capital Cities came out like
With
3
Safe
months
and
later
Sound.
with Safe and Sound blew up, and we were like, oh, thank God we didn't change that name. We'd just be like, well, we're going back to Beyond the Sun, rebranded again.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been Beyond the Sun 16 years now, which is crazy to
Wow. That's insane. How were your parents about this? Like, were their music influences, like, did that impact what you guys wanted to play and what you listened to, or was it kind of you guys found your sound on your own?
I would say So like we grew up on rock music. Our dad was heavy into rock,
but like some classic rock, but mostly like what was actually modern at the time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, like we grew up on like Nickelback and Creed.
Creed, and then Van Halen.
Yeah, those were like that was our childhood.
Yeah,
but
early age growing up, it was like Pearl Jam, Def Leppard, Van Halen, and then right at the turn of the millennium was that kind of that modern rock.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That was our sweet spot. Creed was our band. We loved it. That Nickelback was the first concert we ever went to.
Yeah, you were like 6 years old.
Yeah.
When you went to
and then, but when you get older, like when you even get into high school, you listen to so many different things. And
you're influenced by your friends. You're developed.
And then you have it like all three of us started listening to different things.
Mm-hmm.
But we always came back to like that rock alternative type thing. And then I would say in 2015, 16, when we did Shuffle, like when we started Shuffle, it was kind of like all these genres that were like, we like all this stuff.
Because you were always into country.
I would say, in high school, I started listening to more country. And then
we got us on it.
Yeah, and then I got them on it because we worked a landscaping job. So at 7 a.m,
all you want to hear is
listen is country. But and then we wrote country songs. We were actually going to go to Nashville and try and sell them, like pitch them, and we actually just liked how it sounded. So then that's how the country aspect came into our sound.
To what we kind of
we had at that point. That was a really like pivotal time in the band. We had been a band for 10 years. But we hadn't really. We had just had one EP that was really the identity of Beyond the Sun. The Little Kingdom EP was really the start of us figuring out who we were, our sound, the direction the band was going to go. So we had this one EP, and then we were deciding, okay, maybe we're going to sell some songs. We want to move to Nashville. Maybe a publishing deal. Trying to figure out what that sense was. And as we started writing them, they flew out of us. We wrote 12 songs in like 16 days, and we didn't put any parameters on it. It was like, if this song's a little more rock, if this song's a little more country, if this song's a little more pop, doesn't matter. And that was after a year of only writing one song. 2015, we wrote one song all year.
Wow.
and then worked odd jobs because we're like, I don't even know if this is.
It was just I just finished high school at that point, so it was just a weird.
It was a limbo year, and we couldn't
figure anything out.
Yeah, we couldn't figure out where we were going after Little Kingdom and that EP. We had just played the biggest shows of our career, and then we did nothing. It was like you feel like you're building this momentum, and then all of a sudden it just stops dead. Yeah. And I worked every odd job that you can imagine. In a 12-month span, I think I worked 12 jobs. It was like one a month. I was just rotating through every cliche. And then February 2016, we locked ourselves away in Dalt's room, and we just said, okay, for forever we've been told you're too rock, or you're too pop, or he sounds too country, or all these different things. And in the span of us not trying to do all those, we're like, all right, you know what? We're going to build our own box, make our own sound, and then whatever comes of it, we'll sell or we'll keep or who knows. And that was an extremely freeing weight off of our shoulders, and that's when the creativity flew. I mean, our dad was getting up to go to work at 5 a.m. in the morning, and we were just
still up.
We had McDonald's for dinner. We were getting McDonald's for breakfast. We were having McDonald's for lunch,
and then a little bit of a sleep, and then
back at it. It was we couldn't stop it.
It was fun again. It was fun again. Because 2015, it was one song,
banging your head against a wall,
and then it was just like something. It's like, oh, maybe we're back. Maybe we should do this again.
And then we started traveling back and forth to Nashville. That's where a lot of our friends were, and we started playing these songs for them, and they were like, you got to move here. So in 2016, the end of 2016, we had found a house out in Madison, and we moved down, and we were there for 2 years, grinding, doing our thing, putting songs to radio, doing the charge. And then 2018, our landlord sold the house, and
we came back home.
We came back to Canada, and we were like, all right. Took 2019. We were working on the album, so we were going to be here doing that anyways. This is where the studio is. So we saved money and worked on Shuffle. And then beginning of 2020, we're like, all right, move back to Nashville. We moved March 2nd, and on March 17th.
Well, we moved we got down there like 3 o'clock. By that night at I think 11 or midnight, the tornado hit Nashville.
Oh my God!
We're not even like 5 minutes up the road
from where we just moved
to.
Yeah,
and then
we had
a week and a half later.
A very good week and a half of writing and like meeting new people, and then
our prime minister came out and said, "If you're abroad and you're Canadian, come home now."
And it's been a year and a half.
We have not been allowed back across the border since.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
We're waiting.
Talk about timing. Oh my God.
Yeah. It was the wildest time to move back to the city.
We were so excited to get back. Like we just finished working a lot. We saved up the money, and we had a bunch of new songs, and we
had all these rights on the calendar. Yeah. We had reached out to people for 3 months to line stuff up.
And a week and a half later,
we got through five rights.
Yeah. And then that weekend came, and it started canceling. Like, hey, I don't know what's going on with this virus. Can we just postpone? We're like, yeah, of course. And then
the calendar,
and then it just domino effect. They all canceled, and it's like, I mean, we're not going to be here just sitting in this house. And then our government came out and said, if you're Canadian, come home. And we packed the house up in a day, drove back, and it's been. I mean, we thought we'd be back by May 2020. We were like, maybe a month.
Yeah.
And I mean, now May 2021's come and gone. We're in June now, and maybe in the fall we'll be back. That's the hope and prayer.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's a lot of things.
Oh, right, I'm sorry, but you might hear my dogs barking. I'm so sorry. So, wow. Everyone, like, this last year and a half, 2 years, call it, at this point, has just, it's affected everybody in so many different ways, and how people have kind of approached it kind of amazes me, especially in such an age where music discovery has so many different lines at this point, whether it be TikTok, Spotify, playlists, or whatever. There's just so many different ways of music discovery at this point. How have you guys looked at that, spending the last year without touring and without, kind of being in like the heat of Nashville? How are you guys coming out of it, wanting to approach it?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, one, we're like, we even though we joke about, not being able to leave the country, like it has been a very fortunate year in that sense that we've been still able to come back. Like our parents have been beyond supportive. The second they knew we were coming back, not even a question of us being back home yet again. I'm sure they were like, okay, here we go. But yeah, we came back. We've been able to create.
That
hasn't changed. Like our creation process, we would have been locked in the room anyways.
I would say Zoom has been a huge thing. Like we got to write a lot of cool songs with cool people that we were supposed to write with in Nashville that we just ended up writing with on Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
Including later in life. That single was born out of what would have been hopefully an in-person write, turned into a Zoom write, and
like it's allowed us to actually just do more of the recording process because we have nothing else to do.
Yeah.
Right.
Which, I guess that in that sense we're fortunate that we do it all ourselves anyways. It's all in-house. So we're not waiting on studios to open up or being able to work with people in person.
And because of the pandemic, like Dalton said, we've had a lot of time to write and record. So like our next year is pretty much planned out, which is awesome. Like there's no issue with that. So
yeah, we're good till July of next year.
Yeah,
like release wise.
Yeah, and obviously we want to get back to Nashville. We'd love to play shows and all that, but
regardless, if nothing somehow changes, we're good for a year.
Yeah, we can still put music out. Like we're still being creative. We're still having our quote unquote normal process of releases and being creative and getting that out and still interacting with people. We've been very fortunate. All the Zoom writes we've had have been great. Like we've been really lucky that, because you lose that energy of being in a room with someone, that creative spark when you're playing something over the computer and it's
the
cutting
Wi-Fi
out,
cuts out
and you're like, did you hear any of that? You're like, send me a voice memo. You're like, oh, that kind of pause. But the people we've been with,
it hasn't impeded anything.
Yeah, it hasn't. Like I feel we're writing the best songs we've ever written, and that's kind of everything. Like the ability to appreciate the circumstance you're in and still be able to create. It's like there's extra love in all the songs because you're not taking anything for granted. Just to be able to Zoom with someone, and be allowed to create. It's like there's like this extra like gratefulness about it, and that's been, I think people can hear that in the new singles. I think
that's exciting, and I kind of want to touch back on something you mentioned earlier. In being that the last you were talking about it being really freeing to be able to write just whatever felt comfortable, and playing 200 shows as 15, 16, those really awkward ages of not everybody at your age is doing that, and it's not normal almost to do that. How was that reaction as like kind of, I want to say like youth, like doing that and then making that transition into adulthood with that kind of like carried on your back as well?
Well, one thing, like we say, looking back now, like we definitely didn't realize
we were oblivious.
Yeah, how
busy
the
we
circumstances and the shows we were playing. Like we were playing shows back then that I wish we could play now.
Yeah.
Like that we hope to play in the future.
Yeah.
But it's like you're 10 years old.
Yeah, I was 12 years old, and we were playing, it was called Burlington Sound of Music, and it was the largest mobile stage in the world at the time.
Metallica had just used it on tour.
And I'm 12 years old, I walk out there, I look like a little ant on the stage, and sarcastically, just jokingly, I turned to my dad and I said, oh, I wish they could make it bigger. And one of the guys heard me, and he was like, oh, I can put the ramp out. They had like the lead singer
30
ramp.
feet.
And I was like, no, I'm just kidding. Like that. I was just, because it's so big, I was just joking. And he's like, oh, I can make it bigger. And we're like, no, please, it's okay. Like, no one can see us anyways while we're on here. And it's like, at that time, I didn't know.
Yeah.
I was just, you just kind of were like, oh, cool, we're playing this weekend. Because we were still going to, we were in elementary school. We were still going to elementary school.
We played, there was the Ricoh Coliseum.
Yep.
What was the team?
The Toronto Roadrunners. They were the AHL farm team for an NHL team.
Yeah. So we did like their halftime or like their intermission kind of show, but like before we went on, we were playing with Lego beside our gear.
Yeah.
And then, hey, you guys gotta go play now.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay, put it away. We'll go play. We'll come back. We'll get to this later.
Like, and we never looked at it like, we were getting compensated, but we never looked at it as a job. It was just like this.
It was fun
thing we were doing.
Yeah.
Because we never played, like, all my buddies played hockey growing up, or kids played baseball. That was like our sport. It was just like, oh yeah, we're going to like a game. It was like, no, we're going to our show. Yeah, and it wasn't until about like high school you're like, damn, we feel.
Yeah. Like kids, you would go back to school in September, and kids would be like, "What'd you do this summer?" And we were like, "Oh, well, we did a tour through New York and New Jersey." And they're like, "Oh, wait, wow. What? Like,
yeah.
What do you mean you toured?" And it's like, "Oh yeah, no, we went and played.
We played for 3,000 people."
Just like casually.
Yeah, and not even like really grasping how wild that is, and special, and that we were able to do it. I mean, we were traveling with our parents, so it felt like a family vacation that we also just got to keep playing music on.
Yeah,
and our grandparents would come. Like, it was
everyone would bring the trailers. And
it was a very like kind of family vacation. Just we would also be playing music. And then you fast forward that to now. I mean, when I was talking about in 2015, the year before that, when we were playing our biggest shows,
2014.
So 2014 and 2013, those years, we had a song go to radio, and it went to radio everywhere, but it hit and got great reaction in Puerto Rico. And so we were playing a small, like, cafe an hour 40 from our house. Mm-hmm. And we get this call, hey, yeah, the song's been added to Hot 102 in Puerto Rico. And we had been there on vacation, and we were like, oh, that's awesome. Like, I remember San Juan. That's great.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. Not thinking that would lead to the biggest shows of our lives at the time. And
within like 3 months.
Yeah. All of our social media, I mean, at that time it was YouTube.
The music video.
The YouTube music video got flooded, and our Facebook page got flooded. And it was like, come to Puerto Rico, come to Puerto Rico. So we reached out to the station, and they were like, we're having a summer festival. We'd love to have you. We were like, all right, same kind of thing, kind of a family vacation, like our parents, and we went down. And
but by this point now, because we're I was out of high school, you're out of high school.
Yeah, I was in high school. Yeah,
we were able to comprehend like
at that point we were. Yeah. I was in college at the time. I was at Berklee College of Music in Boston, and you're fully aware of how unbelievable that kind of situation was. And we had done a radio tour up in the Northeast, kind of like Vermont, New York, the upper Northeast, and that's when we struck up our friendship with Jake Miller. Was at one of those radio shows, and they were like, where are you guys going? And we're like, oh, we're going to JFK, then we're flying to San Juan, blah blah blah. And it's like, as you're saying this, you're like, this is unbelievable. Like this is what the touring dream is. And we were living it out, and we were doing it all by ourselves. No manager, no booking agent. Just we had a radio promoter that we had hired, that we picked, and then it was just the fan reaction. That was the only thing that like led to that happening. I mean, if we went to Puerto Rico without them, that would have been it would have just been us walking down the street normal, and
just another family vacation.
Literally. And then when we were there, we get off at the airport, we get picked up. They're playing our song in the car. First time we ever heard our song on the radio. Can't believe it. I mean, I'll never forget that moment. Then we go to our hotel, and our faces are plastered across the street and we're like, oh my god, like this is unbelievable. Yeah. The fact that the hotel checked us in ahead of time just so that we could go to our rooms, I thought was unbelievable. Like I was like, this is rock star status. And then to play the shows and have these like absolutely adoring, screaming fans singing a song that I wrote literally sitting on this bed in 13 minutes.
Yeah, that was the first time you heard like actual fans like sing it back.
Yeah,
and that was
because when we were younger, we played a lot of covers. When in that band that did the 200 shows, we only had I think 6 original songs, and 9 times out of 10, the songs that would get the reaction was the Led Zeppelin, the AC/DC, and then to now be almost 10 years later, pretty much 10 years later from that point, and have that exact same reaction cranked up to 11 on steroids to our own songs. That was the final, like, there is no other plan. There is no other thing that we're going to do. This is
what we want to do.
This is what we've been doing our whole life. And this is why.
And luckily, because of doing it at such a young age, not even that we were aware of what we were doing, we felt already so comfortable.
Yeah, at that point, we've been playing live for 10 years. There was no crowd that would intimidate us.
Yeah, there was no nerve or anything.
You were just excited for the reaction. The reaction, that was the first time I'd ever had anybody crying to meet us. Like, and that is just an unbelievable.
It's a very weird feeling.
Yeah, I can't believe that a song would have that kind of visceral reaction to somebody, and it was a song that just kind of came out, and all of a sudden now you're seeing the labor of your love be received, and people are putting their life into the words and experiences, and they're like thanking us. That was like the most mind-blowing like experience of like, this is why we do it. There's no drug that gives you that kind of high to walk out in front of a crowd and have them screaming your song back so loud you can't even hear him singing it. Mm-hmm. You know, that kind of rush. I don't even know how to describe it. If I could bottle that, I'd be a billionaire if I could sell it. Like, if you could find a way to bottle that feeling.
I'll take 4, please.
Yeah, right. Oh, absolutely. And then that led to Shuffle and us kind of really being comfortable with who we were, to say, you know what? No limits. If it's country, we're writing country. I don't care what anyone says. If it's too alt and it's not radio friendly, it's going to be a 5-minute song.
Yeah, we just kind of want the listener to, if they think it is this, then that's what they think. It's kind of whatever. Because it doesn't hurt our feelings what you think it is. It's just as long, if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't.
Yeah, like they are the boss. That's what we learned in Puerto Rico. They determine really if you have success or don't. Like as much hard work as you put. There's so many great songs out there, but if people aren't hearing them, then they're just there. And it's to be able to have them find something you like, and if they love Be My Queen or they love Cruise Around Town or whatever, just to have them have that connection with us, that's the most important thing, regardless of what the genre is. And our age group 100% understands that, because we all grew up with the iPod. We all knew Shuffle. Yeah. We all knew that you could listen to Jay-Z and then AC/DC and then Need to Breathe and then My Chemical Romance, and it's not weird. Mm-hmm. And for us, we still sound the same. It's still the same voice. It's just kind of how you dress it up and how you kind of tweak it, and you let the song dictate what genre it falls in.
Absolutely. And you know, being from the Toronto area, right now, a good amount of music and what I listen to is coming out of Toronto. And up until probably a year ago, I never thought anything of the Toronto music scene. And Valley is a very big one. Obviously you guys did some writing with a couple of the people from Valley. But how did the Toronto scene kind of shape you guys? Like, did you guys spend obviously you did spend a lot of time in the scene, but how did it shape your sound?
I would say, like, when we were younger, the scene really wasn't what it is. Toronto had this very peculiar thing in the early 2000s where they wanted to, like, make Toronto a new Seattle. Mm-hmm. And they wanted a very specific type of band, and we weren't that band. That was kind of like the Billy Talent and the Sum 41 and this kind of like specific kind of angsty pop punk sound, and we were very much just like a rock band
with like a 13-year-old singing.
Yeah, with a prepubescent singer. Yeah. And so that in that sense, we were always kind of like against the grain. We didn't really fit in the Toronto scene.
And then you saw like the superstars come out of Toronto. Like you saw
Drake changed it all.
Drake, the whole
Shawn Mendes.
Shawn Mendes is a town.
The Weeknd,
a town away from Toronto. The Weeknd is also right around there.
It's definitely entered.
Bieber kind of. Because it is funny, when you look at Canada, Canada has had some of the singular biggest stars.
Yeah.
Celine Dion. Absolutely massive. Shania Twain, Avril Lavigne, even Nickelback, one of the biggest bands as a band. Then Justin Bieber, absolute phenom, of course. And so Canada kind of does have this, like, when one breaks through, it really breaks.
Yeah.
And Bieber kind of had that Canada pull. And then when Drake came, he brought the Toronto pull. Mm-hmm. And that changed Toronto drastically. I mean, that's when people started really respecting Toronto and The Weeknd and, like we said, Alicia Cara.
But I would say in the last like 5, well, at least is what I think, in the last 5 years, the like alt scene really came out of Toronto.
Yeah.
And at that point, we were already living in Nashville.
Yeah, we missed when it was like growing.
When it was like, like Toronto's got a hub and it's like really cool. It's like,
and that was
we just left there.
Yeah. That was when the Valleys and the No Discos and all these kind of bands were forming and kind of figuring it out. And Toronto that was the thing that broke our heart during that like end of the early 2000s into the beginning, Toronto closed a lot of venues. A lot of the venues we played as kids, which is crazy that we were playing them as kids, but
they're gone.
They were all gone. And
right.
so it wasn't really a Toronto music scene to play. And then it took...
The city also itself just got way bigger, and it became like the cool city.
Yeah.
And then once that happened, it's like, everyone...
Venues came back to life. Everything kind of got reinvigorated. Mm-hmm. But by that point, I was already living in Boston, and Boston kind of became our hub. And we were kind of this kind of East Coast band on that side. And then when we came back, then we were moving to Nashville. So then Nashville kind of became our hub. So yeah, as Toronto was building...
We've been away.
we hadn't been there.
Yeah.
And so our influence is just sort of from just what we listen to and what we like just kind of what we feel. We've always, since when I was talking about that EP of Little Kingdom, that EP we did in Charleston, South Carolina with a producer named Eric Bass. And I remember him saying while we were doing it, I don't think you guys even know yet what your sound is. And I took that as so offensive.
Yeah,
I was like, what are you talking about?
You know?
This is clearly our sound.
Yeah.
But
he was so right.
He was 100% right. I mean, we were just scratching the surface of beginning to figure out what we were and what Beyond the Sun, the sound and everything. But that was a really like informative transformative moment for us. And that kind of created the center, like the heart line.
Songs
like Little Kingdom.
We vary away or we stray away, like later in life is kind of a bit left to center for us, but we always kind of have this sweet spot that we come back to, which is rooted in the Little Kingdom days.
That's where that started. Like, if I was to tell somebody, if they were going to hear us for the first time ever and they were like, what is Beyond the Sun? I would play them Little Kingdom, or I would play them The Springs. I would play them songs in this sort of wheelhouse, this line that is our sort of true north. And then everything off of that is just our own creative expression that we let the song dictate. Because like we were talking about with Later in Life, we were blessed to write it with Rob and Karah of Valley. And then we had our friend from Nashville, Hank Compton, and he had a lot of mutual friends with the Valley guys, but hadn't wrote with them. So it was this wonderful melting pot of the three of our influences. But then when we were done, we were like, no one kind of really knows where this song genre-wise falls. Like, this kind of is
a song.
This song. Like, it's not really country. It's not really pop. It's not really alt. It's not really Southern rock. No. It just kind of has this own vibe and entity, and that was from a 6-person creative write, which is the largest write we had done at the time, and to have multiple influences and Rob,
experiences. Rob did production as well on it, so to have his mind kind of approach it from his point of view definitely, gave it a different vibe and life that we would never bring to it.
Yeah, because Dalton is our producer, and Dalton, I mean, what comes from his mind comes from his mind, and we see it, a certain way, and then to have a fresh perspective from Rob was fantastic, and that gave it a whole different slice and vibe to the song.
Definitely. And I literally have this question written down. It was like being co-written by Rob and Karah, and then also having like a Nashville artist, Hank Compton, in it. I was like, there's so many influences in it. And that intro portion, to me, screams Valley. And then it takes that like little bit of a twist as soon as like the lyrics come in. Fabulous. And I mean that. And when I first heard you guys, I believe the first song I heard was The Springs. And first of all, I was confused. I was like, there's so many things like coming through my brain of what this sounds like to me. And then like when you guys sent me Later in Life, I was like, all right, I'm ready to listen to this. Like, let's do this. And then I heard that first intro. I was like, yes, like we're there. Like, this is so great. So I think it's really interesting thinking about, realistically, there was 6 different brains on it, 6 different people with 6 different tastes. Yeah. And now, granted, a lot of songs like typically are written by a good group of people.
Yeah.
But in this, sense of things, and like me knowing how much I love Valley and like hearing the stuff you guys do, and it just was like a great melting pot. And I'm really glad you said that word, because that's exactly what came to my mind. I was like, this just feels like a good like meld of something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And this song, like it was a really kind of unique because of the pandemic, a unique like life to the song. So when we had moved in March 2020 to Nashville, that was the first time we were really opening up to co-writing. Everything mostly before that was always just the three of us. And we were like, we're going to do a bunch of co-writes. We're going to start writing all these kind of ideas ahead of time, just so that if you're in the room and nothing's going on, it's like, what do you got? It's like, oh, I have this idea.
Yeah.
And so it was a Sunday right before the first co-write, and Sunday's laundry day. And I was just strumming the guitar. Colin had this title later in life for a while that he knew on this trip of 2 months.
We're going to write something called Later in Life.
Yeah, and we were like, all right, I don't even know what that means. Like, I can't think of where that fits, but sure, we'll figure it out. And I was strumming the guitar, and I had these couple lines, which are the first lines of the song. Laundry day in our small house. Originally, it was the three of us, but then we decided to make it the two of us in the sense of the story of the song. In this town, I remember growing up wishing for things like I don't care about now. And we were in this little house that all we literally had was a studio and bedrooms.
And we loved it.
And we were beyond content.
Yeah. Like when you're a kid, or even when you have these dreams, it's like, all right, I want to have the mansion. I want to be playing festivals.
I need this many cars.
I need this many cars. We're going to be playing sold out. Yeah. And then just by being back in the city, even though it was only for a week and a half, but by being back in the city and it's like a whole new life, the different energy. And it's like, this is what we need. There's a coffee shop down the street. If we could just have
this little house and make music, that's it.
That's literally all we need. And it was this really grateful feeling of like, we're back in this town, and like me turning 30 this year, the last 2 years have been a really kind of reflective time of me of being like, okay, at 30, I did think I was going to have this, and this. Instead, I have, X, Y, Z, and all these other things. And when we got to Nashville, you just realize how lucky are we? We have a roof over our heads. We have a studio. We're going to be writing for the next 2 months with all these incredible people who inspire us and that we're beyond lucky to collaborate with. And we're doing like everything that we love. All our friends are here. We can walk and get coffee. Like, it was just such an incredible feeling that's where that first verse came from. And then the pandemic hit. We came home. You have to kind of reassess. We knew we wanted to write with Rob and Karah, and we were like,
and we already wrote 2 songs with Hank at that point. We had done
2 songs over Zoom with Hank, so we had built, even though we had never met him, we were supposed to meet him in person. But we had kind of built this friendship, and we felt like we had known each other
for forever,
for longer than 2 Zoom writes.
Yeah, and that our creative shorthand with Hank was great. We just knew kind of he has a very distinct writing style, but it fit in our world. Mm-hmm. Great. It was just one of those writes that once we wrote the first song, we were like, we got to write again. We just got to do it. And Dalton had the idea of like, what if we get Hank and we get Rob and Karah to write on it, and we kind of have a bigger, you're a little bit worried because before it was always the 3 of us and 1 other person. Now we were going to have the 3 of us and 3 other people
on Zoom. So
on Zoom, how does that work out? Are Rob and Karah in the same area? Like, they might be in separate writing areas. And sure enough, they were, and Hank was in Nashville.
So it was a 4-screen
thing. We were in the room next door, and I had played them this verse, and Rob immediately was like, well, that's perfect. There's nothing we need to change in that verse. That says everything we want. What can be the next part of the story? And I had just paid off my car, and just through the talking before we started writing.
Because we always just kind of talk and
you just get to know each. I mean, it's a little bit awkward. You're just meeting each other, and you're going to write, but
you spend like a good 30 minutes to an hour just kind of knowing each other.
Yeah, and they're only 40 minutes up the road from us, so it's like, how weird is this that I could literally drive to you and be in your house, or you could be here within an hour, but like we can't. No one can.
Right.
But you just paid off the car, so that's
right. I just paid off the car.
I'm 24, so in the second verse it says I'm on aisle 24 buying things I can't afford.
That's kind of a play.
But that was just because of my age,
mm-hmm. and telling stories of us being in Nashville. We were talking about the Kroger.
We
on
all
the east
knew
side.
the same Kroger. Like each party knew this Kroger. In East Nashville, it's kind of like infamous for being a little sketchy, but
and
that was our home Kroger. Like,
if you're, everyone's had a breakdown there.
Yeah, everyone's had a big moment.
Thought about life and just music and what's going on.
Yeah, in the grocery store parking lot.
Yeah.
Something somehow always big happens. Good or bad. And we were all kind of laughing at that. And then that kind of history of Hank and Rob and Karah and us, the song just flowed. Like, it was one of the easiest writes we've had. And considering there was so many influences, we were working on the second part of the verse. Karah was already like, I've got a chorus melody. Then Rob jumps in on the chorus melody. And it was very easy flowing. It was never like you got stuck and you're just sitting there being like, okay, guys, what are we going to do for the second verse? It was like ideas were flowing.
Yeah.
And I feel like that like fun energy also got encapsulated in the song. So it's like you have this grateful thing. And that was one thing we had all talked about of like how lucky are we that we're still able to be creative together, even though it's through Zoom and all these other things. We're still
you just got to adapt,
scratching that creative itch. And then to get the song out of it, and it has so much love and kind of reflectiveness of where everyone is, even though it's, you know, mostly our story. They were writing knowing it was going to be our song. It's so relatable to everybody in our age group. I mean, from even people later in life. I mean, later in life. There I go.
No pun intended.
Yeah, but I look at like my parents, and you know that they wish they had more time with their parents. Their parents are getting up there in age, and you just know like, okay, this last year we haven't been able to see them. When's the next time we're going to be able to just even visit in their living room? And the list goes on and on and on. And I think that was really the antithesis of this being the first song to come out of these singles. Was this song? It's a little bit left of center than say some of the other singles that are coming, but it really has this feeling that for this time of year, as things are just kind of opening up, that kind of grateful realization of like how lucky we are and how whether it is a younger person or an older person, this last year made everybody reevaluate and realize what you were taking for granted or weren't.
And the stuff you didn't really need.
Yeah. And we felt as we wrote this song, like, that if there's a time to come out, it's got to be the first one.
I would say also the biggest thing with later in life that just took it to another life that we're like, this is what it needed was we got a choir actually in the chorus.
So yeah, over the internet. Gotta love the internet.
Yeah. Once we heard that,
we just hired these two gospel singers, a husband and wife from North Carolina, and we've always wanted to do something with like gospel singers and a choir kind of thing, and it never had panned out. And then we just kind of sent them the work tape at the time. It was like kind of halfway through the recording process, and then they just recorded, like, we told them what the lyrics were, what we were looking for. They sent like 24 tracks back of all their parts, and then we just flew in our session. And the first time we hit play, it was just like,
yeah, this is what we needed.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And that was also beautifully said about like this kind of being the perfect first song to release after a year of, personal hell for a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And looking forward at the rest of the tracks you guys kind of have lined up, are you able to talk about other collaborators that might be on this or anything like that? A nice little tease for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. The second single is a song. It's got a long title. It's called "It's 8 p.m. and You're Alone in Your House."
We went very Fall Out Boy with that title.
Yeah.
Growing up.
Yeah.
It's completely different than later in life.
Yeah.
You would think it's two different bands.
Yeah. And
we wrote it with
Kyle Reynolds.
Yeah, our friend Kyle Reynolds, who's out in
He's
LA.
an LA guy.
Yeah, and he's a phenomenal writer. And that write was a write where I left being like, wow, these are some of like my favorite lyrics. And I'm a sucker for kind of this fast-paced. I think it's because growing up on Nickelback, to be honest. I don't know where I get it from. I think it's Chad Kroeger, but these kind of fast-paced verses, and that was right in Kyle's sweet spot. So we had played him the chorus, and he was like, "Oh, dudes, we're gonna crush this."
And he has such great instincts, and he's so fast at like he knows what he wants. It was like before we could even like really figure out we're doing the verse, he's like, "I got this, and this."
Yeah, and it was one where I just kept looking over at these guys like, this song is so good. Like, this is just unbelievable. And then in the production side, we originally were like, it'd be great to have Kyle on it. And then through scheduling and all this other stuff, it didn't happen. And I think that ended up working out in the best scenario. I mean, I would love to have a song with Kyle, but for what the song is, what it's about, and the whole vibe of it, I think people hearing it just as Beyond the Sun is the perfect way to hear we call it APM. It's so long to say. But for people to hear APM and it just be the three of us on the track. And then we have, I mean, this is a very eclectic year for us. One of our writes that we did in person was with a friend of ours in Nashville his name's Caleb Blair. And he's a phenomenal piano player. Phenomenal. And writer. And writer. And we had written with him. Then we were like, dude, we got to do another write. It was a Zoom write. And we wrote. And immediately as we knew it, just hearing through the Zoom, the piano he was playing, we were like,
we got to have you play on this.
You got to play on this. Like it's got to be.
Once we wrote it, we're like, this song is coming out. Like, it's going to be one of those singles. And
once again, they're like having him, like how Rob was on the production side of Later in Life, having him bring his like piano
and
skills and instincts and talent to it. It completely brought the song to something that we wouldn't be able to do.
Yeah.
And like growing up, we're big, the Fray.
We love
the Fray, and it's kind of got that vibe with the piano.
Yeah, he's unreal. So
and
then like there's just a bunch of people that it's all just like sliding in the DMs is how we've been.
It's like, hey,
you want to write?
Hey, we're fans of you, and if you have listened or find anything of ours that you like, we would love to work with you, and we've been lucky. Yeah, the people we've been able to write.
No one said no.
Yeah, no one has said no.
So that's good.
The worst thing they can do is say no. That's what I always say.
Shoot
your shot.
Yeah, that's right.
Shoot or shoot.
Yeah. But yeah, so we're doing, besides December, we'll take a break for like the holidays and whatnot. It's a song every 2 months.
Yeah.
Wow.
June 18th, August, October, break until January and so forth.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And visual mediums, how does that look for you guys? I know you guys have a few videos out. Looking forward to any of that too, or has it been kind of more difficult because of the pandemic?
We want to definitely do videos. Like I know they'll probably be mostly kind of visualizer kind of stuff, like Can't Keep Picking Up.
Yeah.
Just because that's just so easy. I film it, he walks, and sings.
Very cheap.
I just hold a light.
Lights on the beach, yeah.
Like we're gonna do that, but these 7 singles we're working with a new photographer who does all of the no disco stuff.
Oh god, Chris Borges, right?
Yeah, he's so sick. So we're doing he's kind of taking the helm of the creative vision for all the artwork.
So we actually see him tomorrow.
And
That's exciting.
Wednesday.
So we're going on Wednesday to shoot the artwork for 8 p.m. And to have kind of a new, because we feel these songs are in such a new spot for us, to have a new set of eyes and like a new creative mind doing the actual photography. I think it's like the perfect fit.
Yeah. It was a perfect time, and he's super collaborative, and he is his eye is just phenomenal. I mean, the artwork and the shots that we did for Later in Life.
We shot him at our grandparents' house because we thought you saw the artwork, I think, right? So the photo room.
Yeah.
So that's just our grandparents' basement. They have all these. Our grandma's like
we call her the band historian. She has a photo of everything that we've ever done from the time we were born to now. It's been photographed, and
that's so awesome, though.
Yeah,
and seeing him see that space for the first time, he sees things in a way that we never would, because it's just like, oh, it's our grandparents' house.
Yeah,
he's like, no, I think like this captures exactly what we're going for, and it was just sick to have him kind of take the reins.
Yeah, it's been a wonderful collaboration, and we're just getting started. I mean, we have a whole year to work with them, which is great. As that just builds, and everyone gets to be more expressive, and as the world opens up, we get to choose more locations and do things. It's just going to lend itself to be, even more
enjoyable,
expressive, and enjoyable, and fresh. And I really do feel it's a great new visual to the new songs and the sound and where the band is right now.
Absolutely, and I'm excited to see all that. And the whole thing about it being at your grandmother's house is like, especially with that song, is like Picture perfect. Picture perfect.
And they were so excited to find out that we're like, this is going to be like on Spotify and on Apple Music. They're like, oh wow,
on the internet. Like they were stunned. Can we Google that? Yes, you can. You can Google it. But and it was kind of wild because you're in this room surrounded by photos of
your life,
our entire life, our mother's entire life, our grandparents' entire life. You're looking at all these generations, and that is really what the song, kind of home base is at, is like this. As you grow up and looking back, it's like, your family, your core people. That's really the most important thing at the end of it. All the other headaches and bills and everything else that weighs on you
doesn't matter.
You can't take them. The only thing you're going to get is the memories and the love you have, and that all came together beautifully. And then Chris captured it phenomenal.
That's just so special. That's just incredible. And I'm like a big, I do concert photography, I was doing it. And I worry about, I started shooting film. So all of this stuff, I just love the visual mediums. If you guys know who the Wildlife are, their aesthetic that they've gone through with this last record is just beautiful. So I'm really excited to see what you guys do with all of that. But do you guys want to play a game called Quick Pick? We're going to play it a little differently. We're all going to take our phones and just shuffle, and the scenario that I read will be that song we pick. Okay. So I'll go first and just shuffle my phone. Let me just turn it down. Oh, God, sorry. I'm hoping this is fun. I haven't done it this way, so if it's boring, I'm so sorry. I imagine it could get really funny. So the first song is you're walking around a museum gallery, and it's very, very posh. It's fancy. It's silent, but you forgot to turn your phone off, and this song would be your ringtone. So if everyone wants to hit shuffle, we'll play it. I got Congratulations by Wincanetta Bowling League, which is not a bad one. Could be funnier.
I got
you guys get?
Dream by Katy Perry.
That's a good one.
Yeah. I got Hungry Heart by Bruce Springsteen.
Okay.
I got Rosalita by Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah. All right, Bruce. We'll take it. Bruce. If you guys know Bleachers, the song he did with Bruce, it blew my mind. I was like, this is something I never knew that I really needed.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
This next song is You Are Romantically Dancing in the Rain. I got Be Your Shadow by the Wombats. Mine aren't funny. I want them to be funny.
I got She Lit a Fire by Lord Huron.
Okay.
That's a good one.
That is a good one.
Yeah, I got Stoned by Whiskey Myers,
which is a good slow dance song.
Yeah, that's a great.
I've never heard of it.
Yellowstone. If anyone's watched the show Yellowstone, they'll know that song. And
okay.
Perfect timing for a slow dance. Yeah, absolutely.
I got Change Your Ticket by One Direction.
That one. There we go. Not romantic, but it's fun.
Love it.
I love this song so much. I'm really glad that came out. I was big 1D gal in all of the years. Still.
Oh yeah, you love it.
Yeah.
And this last one is You Are on the Way Home from a Date. The date went terribly. This is the first song that comes on shuffle.
Oh my goodness.
I actually got Trouble by Avicii.
Okay, yeah.
I got Enemies by Lauv.
That's actually perfect.
Good one.
This is a super old one, but it's Everything's a Miracle by Swimming with Dolphins, which was like Owl City's side band.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's an old
That's a throwback.
high school one.
I got Sex on Drugs by No, maybe I don't know how to pronounce it. I just like this song, so not the best. Might give the wrong impression on a bad day, but
there's a change in that date, I guess.
Yeah, I know. Well, thank you guys for playing. That was fun. Hope you liked it. So I have one final question to kind of wrap everything up. Yeah. Musicians have the ability and the platforms to leave marks on the world. Is there something you guys want to do, either bigger or smaller, to leave a mark?
Ooh. Just end it with a light one.
Yeah. After I loosened you guys up with these funny songs.
Yeah. As we're listening,
let's hear the real stuff.
Yeah, it was intentional.
From One Direction, now the most important message. I would. Let me think. I would think. So, I mean, one thing, and I think it's our generation. It's not specific to us. Our whole generation has been far more vocal and focused on mental health. And I know from my experience and from these guys having to deal with me, the mental aspect of our songs and the message, I mean, talking about it, just having that one person you can talk to, and it changes everything. And even if it's not a person, even if it's just a song, if you can just hear a song and it take you to a place where you can breathe, where you can just have a little bit of weight off your chest. If we could do that for one person, that is beyond.
Yeah.
I mean, we got into this to like have fun. Like we got into this because it was like an easy, like not easy, but it was a fun thing.
You love to do it.
It didn't feel like you were doing anything. It didn't, it was like, oh my God, I've been playing guitar for 10 hours. Where did that 10 hours go? It felt like I just picked it up.
Like we said before, in Puerto Rico, when we had a fan cry just to meet us, right away, that's already in my
to have that kind of impact. And, I can honestly say we've never written a song where we've thought this is going to change people's lives. That's never been the thought process. It's just been like, here's what we're feeling in this moment.
Yeah.
Let's capture that the best way we can. And if one person goes, I've had that exact same feeling. And we have a song, it'll be coming out
on an EP.
Yeah, on an EP.
At some point.
The EP will be called Focus, but that was kind of me at my lowest point mentally. And I had it was like this weight on your chest, and you just needed to tell one person. And I wrote the chorus, and I had basically said, like, I don't need you to, like, to say anything. I just need you to listen. And that kind of feeling, if we can give that to one person where they, can put on a song and, like,
and
just
feel heard or
just feel like that's everything I wish I could have said, but I didn't know how. Because God knows, Bruce Springsteen's done that for us. Chris Martin and Coldplay has done that for us. One Direction has done that for us.
Yeah.
I mean, there is so many, Ed Sheeran, there's so many writers who have put those feelings that you can't express into a song. One Republic's Let's Hurt Tonight, I mean, I was in a relationship, that tells you everything about that song. But that feeling where you're just like, I don't know how to say it, and then they say it for you. If somebody has that with one of our songs, that's legacy defining. That is beyond special for us. And like, yeah, if that's one thing we can leave, I'd be
happy with that.
Beyond happy with that.
Yeah,
awesome. That was good.
I'm not crying. It's okay.
That's always my last question. It's always like, okay, now we're gonna end it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate that. It was such a fun conversation. Beyond the Sun, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.